Every puzzle has an answer.
To be honest, I might not be the most objective when making this video, and that's because Kadokawa, the Japanese company that owns the rights to Re:Zero, is delaying Season 4 of the anime to make this anime. The anime is about a character who is overweight and living a typical isekai story. Can you believe it? I mean, it's not wrong to try new things. I'm doing the same by slowly moving away from the Re:Zero genre. But when you lose a lot of important animators and staff from your productions, it probably isn't the best idea to take on more adaptation projects with fewer people. Oh, right, but these are the Japanese we're talking about. They'll probably accept longer work hours because of their strong work ethic. Anyway, let's start with the anime about the fat guy, Uglymug, Epicfighter. I know I probably sounded like a hater in the intro, and I don't blame you if you thought that. I didn't expect much when I started watching this anime, but I was pleasantly surprised. It's like when you try to flirt with a girl, fail, and then end up flirting with her friend instead. It may not be what you were hoping for, but you're still happy in the end. That's pretty much how I feel about this anime. Wait, did I just compare a woman to an anime character? The anime about the fat guy starts off the same way. Episode 1 has him thinking back on his life and realizing it wasn't that great because of the false accusation made against him by a mean girl. By the time her lie was exposed, too much time had already passed. The damage was done, and his life was ruined. I know it might sound like a cheap excuse to make us feel sorry for the main character, but if getting cancelled is already terrible in our Western society, I can only imagine how much worse it must be in the East, Japan being such a very conservative society, where honor is very important. Anyway, with this backstory, one day he's transported to another world, but before arriving, he gets to choose the attributes of his new life. Things like strength, looks, and charisma. He realizes that improving his positive stats is too expensive, but he could add a bunch of negative stats like obesity, baldness, and ugliness. That would give him a lot of bonus points to invest elsewhere. So, the sneaky bastard decides to stack every negative trait he can think of in order to, let's say, break the system to his advantage. I'm not joking. He adds every negative trait he can think of. It's funny because one of them makes it impossible for him to earn money on his own unless someone gives it to him. But that's nothing compared to his biggest weakness. Every time a woman touches him, he takes damage to his body, losing 10% of his current health. If he ever has sex with a woman, he dies. And it doesn't end there. As I said, he has a lot of disadvantages. Remember how Reinhardt from Re:Zero has a ridiculously long list of positive powers just for existing? This guy has a list like that too, but it's full of negatives. In exchange, though, he basically becomes a god from the very first minute he's summoned. To be honest, I really liked the first episode, and that's what made me want to keep watching. But the big question is, do the rest of the episodes live up to it? The first episode is great, and it would have been even better if it ended right there. We would have been left wondering how the main character would live his new life. But this is a 12-episode series, and that's obviously not the case. This brings us to the next part of the video. Remember the fat guy's history and how he got cancelled? The anime slowly gives us small pieces of his past throughout the episodes, and it also tries to do the same with the other characters. For example, in episode 1, we see a disabled girl getting bullied. Later, we find out that she too was transported by the same strange entity. Just like the fat guy, she made her own requests when she arrived. I think it would be good to make the main character curious about why others came to this new world, because he wasn't the only one who was unhappy with his old life. We can expect the same from the other two party members as well. In fact, by the time episode 4 came around, we had already learned a lot more about the past of another companion named Seiji. He seems like a cocky rival who's going to betray the main character out of jealousy, but the story doesn't actually go that route. At the same time, the show also clarifies the backstory of Leeds, this girl whose design looks very similar to Felt from Re:Zero, and whose quirky personality is eventually explained in her flashback. As I was writing this, I realized that, without knowing it, they all actually crossed paths in their past lives. It didn't happen directly, but one person's actions indirectly caused another person to experience misfortune. That's interesting because it's one thing to put together a group of characters who all just happen to have had difficult past lives. But it's way more compelling to form a group where everyone's miserable past is directly tied to the actions of the others. The second setup is much more interesting. It makes you wonder if this group could ever truly be friends if they all found out about each other's pasts. As I said before, I think the way the story connects these characters to their past lives is really interesting, but only if you can stick with the parts that are slower and lead up to that subplot. That's the negative part of the anime. I know humor can be subjective, Not everyone likes Konosuba's sense of humor, but most people think that Konosuba is more for men, with jokes about stealing underwear and other similar jokes. Here in Uglymug Fighter, the humor feels more neutral, but personally, it doesn't make me laugh. I'm a simple man. I see breasts and react like a man. I laugh at dirty jokes. In other words, I'm an idiot. Maybe this show isn't funny for me. That's why I don't laugh at its jokes very much. I only enjoy those rare moments when the humor gets a little spicy or when the main character shows off his powers. It's entertaining to watch how others react to how broken he is. I'd love to talk more about these points, but we've only seen 4 episodes so far. I might write more about the series later. To sum things up, I highly suggest listening to the ending theme. I'm not sure if the problem is just that the opening song is bad, but even though the visuals are nice, the music just doesn't click with me. The ending, on the other hand, feels perfectly in sync, both the visuals and the singer's voice. To be honest, I'm thinking of using the beginning of the ending song as a new alarm for my streams. I recommend watching the ending. Maybe that will make you want to watch the anime. That makes me think of the next point. I think what I highlight about this anime isn't necessarily what someone else would point out. This includes you, dear anonymous internet failure watching this right now. I would say that it's worth spending some of your weekend and time on it. Maybe the show will hook you so much that you'll end up reading the light novel, or maybe it'll just give you a fun little moment you'll remember fondly in the future. Either way, you win. Before I finish, I want to thank the user who paid for this channel's membership. It means a lot to me. I would also like to thank the people who supported me with their monthly subscription from my original channel. Now let's get back to the topic and give our verdict. What's the verdict? If you like stories where the journey is as important as the destination, then set aside some time this weekend to try this one out. But you should definitely check out the story about a robot waiting for the return of extinct humanity at the end of the world. You can see that one right now on screen.